Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Going to be taking a look at a Terran strategy today. In this particular replay, our Terran player here is Straylock, and the Zerg opponent is OGS. Let's go right into Straylock Vision, though. What are we going to look at today? Well, I wanted to show you guys how to properly play against Zerg. The idea is that you want to be aggressive, you want to be harassive, and you want to deny expansions. Essentially, that's the goal. If you can do that, then you're going to have a real leg up on your Zerg opponent. Now, in a previous video last week, we did take a look at a Zerg strategy, and I talked about why Zerg players aren't fast expanding nearly as often nowadays, and this is due to the two-rax push being so effective. So, in the beginning of this video, we're going to see Straylock perform the two-rax push. We're going to see one way of properly doing it, how effective it can be, and then it's going to be a transition into a Marine Marauder harassive playstyle with constant attacks, constant drops, hitting from multiple angles. This is going to be particularly effective on this map with this high ground right here. Putting up a siege tank is absolutely devastating, and if you can make it so that your Zerg opponent is to the point where they're not even capable of teching up to Mutilis, then it's going to be very, very difficult for them to stop siege tanks up on this high ground. It's going to be very difficult to stop for them to stop you from stopping them from expanding. There we go. So the opening build order, it's a little different than a typical build order. The thing is, we're getting the second barracks very, very quickly in the beginning stages of the game. Starting off, of course, with that 10 supply depot, then there are going to be 2 barracks at 12. So this first one came down to 12, stopping SCV production just for a moment, and then producing that second barracks as well. Now, I want you to know right off the bat, this isn't something you want to do on a regular basis. Stopping SCV production can really hurt you. If this push isn't successful, being short 1 or 2 workers compared to your opponent can be really devastating, basically. So the general idea is that you're going to start off, by just getting those 2 barracks really early, and you're going to just keep pumping out Marines. Now, you want to be sure that you still work on and continue to get ready for the next stage. So that Orbital Command's coming down, that went down at 15. That transition went down at 15 supply. And going to keep pumping out Marines and trying to find your opponent, of course, first. But once you do find your opponent, the idea is you want to try to contain them with a bunker and a supply depot, and at the same time deny their expansion. Now, this is, of course, if they go for an expansion. You can just go for a regular contain if they haven't expanded, but a lot of Zerg players, if they aren't privy to the fact that this 2-rax push is very effective, again, this is a fairly new development in the metagame. This hasn't always been this way. In fact, just about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, it was pretty much the case that every Zerg player was fast expanding against Terran and Protoss, but now they're doing it much less against Terran. Now, you can see here exactly what took place there, and I'm going to go back just for a moment. You want to bring up more than 1 SCV. Bringing up 2 to 3 is going to be best. Now, once you get that initial supply depot down, the goal is to try to stop him from preventing you from putting down, trying to get in his face, keep those workers away. Once this Marine gets up here, it's going to be very easy to stop the workers, and try to just simply get down that bunker. If you can get down this bunker, it's pretty much good game. Even though this expansion's already up, if you can manage to get this bunker built, you need to keep this SCV alive, of course. That's pretty crucial. Now, being able to micro properly is something that's very key as well. You need to be able to keep your Marines and keep your workers away from any threats that are there. And again, having these multiple SCVs is going to help in case one dies. You can continue to work on it with the other one. That's the general idea. Also, if you aren't aware, if you have an SCV building something and he's getting attacked and you want to stop him from building, all you have to do is click on the SCV and hit T. And when you hit T, he's going to stop what he's doing, he's going to leave, and then you can micro him around, try to keep him away from any threats, and maybe bring another SCV in, click on the building that's not complete, and he will continue to build it. So again, you click on that SCV, you hit T, it'll pull him away from building, and you can grab another one or just bring him back at a later date when he's not threatened. Maybe you killed off that threat with the Marines that you have. But you can see here just continuing to pump out Marines. You might say, well, what if he counterattacks? Well, this is just about general awareness. If you want to pay attention to the mini-map while you're doing all of this up here, and if he does counterattack, they just lift up the supply depot and you're all set. So there you go. Now you can see once this does get up, if you manage to get it up, it's pretty much game over. He doesn't have time. People say, what about roaches? He hasn't had time yet to build roaches. He hasn't had time yet to build banelings. If you can get this up and he has an expansion here, you will kill the expansion, plain and simple. So his goal, your opponent's goal, is simply to try to prevent it from going up. So proper micro, again, that's something I talked about. You want to try to move any of the units that are in threat, and the units that aren't threatened, allow them to continue attacking. That's the general idea behind it anyways. You can see now, preparing for that transition, you see those refineries going down. Also going to get down this command center, going for an expansion ourselves. If you can deny your opponent's expansion like this, if you can, after they've already purchased it, you know, he spent 300 resources, a completed building, then we killed it with this bunker. If you can kill it after he's built it, he's way, way behind. And you can add greatly onto that advantage by putting down your very own expansion. And it's going to put you in a very good spot. And truth be told, if you get in this position where you kill his expansion and you get your expansion up, unless you have some huge blunder, it's going to be very difficult for you to lose. I mean, this is just a huge advantage, absolutely huge advantage. Going back in the base, going to talk about that transition when things took place. Started building this command center at 28 supply. Also came down with these 2 refineries as well as 28 supply. And then a 30 supply coming out with these 2 additional barracks. And, you know, as soon as we can afford it, going to be coming out with that factory. You can see right now sitting on that Vespian. So we should be seeing a factory somewhat fairly shortly. But yeah, just continue to macro up. Make sure production remains constant out of all of your buildings the entire game. Still coming out with these units constantly. Going to be coming out with SCVs constantly. Try to not get supply blocks. Pay attention to all this stuff. Doing all these things is going to make you a strong player and allow you to do very well. And we can see again how effective this harassment is. Let's take a look at our opponent's base real quick. You know, this is a good player, but he's so far behind. Even though he has his Banelink stuff right now, he's so far behind because of all the resources he dumped into this, and all the resources he dumped into the Zerglings trying to defend against this. And that's exactly why this push can be very, very effective. So back in a stray lock vision though. Again, you're just continuing to macro up, trying to make sure we keep that production constant, always be coming out with those units, always be utilizing our resources. These are all very important things that you want to be doing. You can see upgrades coming down for the tech lab. So I was wrong for a moment. We're going to be transitioning into the early push as opposed to going straight for that factory. This is obviously going to be very effective as well. Getting the upgrades, the stim pack and the combat shield, also maybe getting concussive shells, although not quite as effective with those small units in the Zerglings. Definitely much more effective against a Protoss opponent. But yeah, just going to continue up the aggression, and that's the general idea. That's the name of the game here. So after that initial push, severely setting back the opponent, denying their expansion, forcing them to dump so many resources into trying to defend it, you're going to be in a really good spot for another push if you just continue up production, maintain what you're doing, and there you go. Pretty simple, pretty effective, and very, very strong as well. Expansion finally up. You're of course going to want to defend it, so placing down a couple bunkers at the front is going to be a great idea. Once you get siege tanks as well, having them sit in the back for some splash damage, taking care of any Zerglings or Banelings that may try to push forward. But the general idea is we're going to build up. Once these upgrades come through, you can see stim pack is just about finished. Combat shield has just come in. Once these upgrades come through, you're going to see him push out, and there he goes right away. So Straylock gets that initial block off, denies the expansion, then goes back to the base. Continues to macro up, continues to produce units, goes quickly for those upgrades, the stim pack and the combat shield. You can see pushing out now with that concussive shell. It should be just about finished by the time you reach the base, and gonna go for another harassment. So the major threat now, of course, we're running a bio ball into a Zerg opponent. What's the major threat? Of course, we do have to worry about Banelings. That's something that can be really devastating to our Marines. So if Banelings are on the board, you just need to make sure that you grab all of your Marines, stim pack up, and pull them away. That's the general idea. So you've got your big group of units. You can see they're all hotkey to 1 here. And what he would do is if he saw Marines rolling in, he would hold down control, click on 1 Marine, and then pull them all into the back. You can see already just pulling them into the back just because those Banelings are right there. If you keep the Marauders in the front and pull your Marines into the back, you'll do just fine. Aside from the fact that a lot of the Banelings will probably run right into the Marauders, the other thing that you have going for you is even if he tries to run by the Marauders to your Marines, well, that means they're taking extra shots. You can see also they're splitting up the units into multiple groups. So you have your whole army, you're pulling them back, and then you just grab segments and split them off to the side. That's going to be effective as well, because if the Banelings do hit a group, they're only going to hit 1 instead of your entire mass. The point of this push, of course, is to take out the expansion, and you saw how effective that was. Marauders, especially with stim pack, are very quick when it comes to knocking down buildings. So I said earlier that if you deny that expansion and you get up this expansion yourself, you're going to be in a really good spot, and it's basically going to be difficult for you to lose the game. If you kill that expansion a second time, it's impossible to lose. You could stop playing for the rest of the game. You could just rally all of your units to his base. There's no way. Your opponent would be so far behind if you deny the expansion more than one time. But that's the general idea. You know, fighting against Zerg, what do you want to do? You want to stop them from getting map control. That's what Zerg is renowned for. They're renowned for having map control, having so much vision of the map, and just macroing up really hard. You want to stop Zerg players from getting map control. You want to deny expansions, and you want to harass their economy. You want to kill off their drones in any means possible. We can see back in the base, of course, now that this expansion is up, you can obviously afford a lot more. So continuing to macro up all the while that attack was taking place, you know, obviously constant production of units was happening. But on top of that, also coming out, let's see some micro going on right here. Pulling the units away, stim pack, trying to spread them out. There's clearly too many, but still trying to get as much damage done to his units and take out as much as possible. Also going to be seeing a drop take place right now. Once you get Medevacs up, again, you're going to continue up your production, Marines, Marauders, Medevacs, and once you get your Medevacs up, go ahead and start dropping. And then we have this factory down, so you know you want to start going for siege tanks as well, and try to do as much damage as possible. So the idea with this is that if you've done this much damage, there's a very, very small chance that they're going to have anything like meatless on the board. And even if they do, your Marines will do pretty well. They'll be so low on resources that they won't be able to afford a ton. But the idea is that with these drops, you know, you attack, you do damage, and then whenever your units are in danger, you just lift them up. You pick them right up, basically. You scoop them up as soon as they're in danger. So have them attack, do some damage, and scoop them right up. You see that done? So that's the idea. This obviously takes a lot of dexterity with your hand. You have to be very quick. But if you can do this, it's a very effective method of basically just a dropship harassing. That's the general idea. Medevac, they're called Medevacs, not dropships. You can see the siege tanks coming out now, so preparing for that next harassive drop. Also going to be loading up some more Medevacs and going from a different angle. So we have this one up here on the high ground. A good idea is going to be, while he's distracted over here, let's just drop a couple units right back here. Try to hit his economy back here. Again, trying to be harassive, trying to maintain constant harassment, trying to take out a queen. Obviously, that's a good idea. Look at what Straylock did there. Excellent job. He attacked the queen, alright? He did damage, and as soon as the opponent moved units in, just lifted up his units and went right back up to safety. That's the general idea. That is what you would like to do. Try to take down the queens, primarily because, of course, if you can stop them from getting that inject larva ability, you're going to be in a really good spot. So here's another drop, you know, trying to be harassive on multiple fronts, going over here, and then going to be dropping in this base over here. Again, you have to be quick, you have to be fast, you have to have pretty good hand-eye coordination, essentially, but if you can pull it off, this is going to be very effective. And again, this is the way you'd like to play against Zerg. As soon as these siege tanks are up, going to be loading them up and bringing them up to the high ground as well. And once you get a siege tank up here, say bye-bye to this expansion. Unless he has, like I said, meatless on the board, or he needs vision and some sort of a ranged unit to try to snipe down your tank. But even with that, if you kept your tank right about here, it's going to be able to hit the hatchery and be out of range of most of the ranged units that he's going to have, especially like the Roach. The Roach has such a short range. Even with that range upgrade, it's such a short range. Moving in the units down here, you can see hanging up right there with those Marines. Gonna do a drop once he's distracted over here. Siege tank going up. Gonna start raining hell on this expansion. And yeah, there we go. Units coming, lift them right up and pull them back. So you can see, you've seen this pretty much constant thing. You've seen the idea of dropping down these units, doing damage, then lifting them up when the threat's coming. Too many players will drop units, allow them to do damage, but then just let them get swarmed by Zerglings and Banelings. Don't do that. Why would you do that? If there's no reason to. Lift them up, save them, retreat them, and then bring them back in to do some more damage at a later point. Much better idea, much more effective. You can see how effective this has been, and OGS does call good game. So again, I wanted to show you guys, I wanted to take a look at a good way to fight against Zerg. And the idea is constant harassment, trying to deny expansions. You saw that two-rax push to deny the expansion. You saw that followed up by a Marauder Marine with Stim Pack, Concussive Shell, and Combat Shield. That push denied the expansion as well. And then getting up on the high ground with siege tanks to deny this expansion, dropping in the back of his base, killing off his workers. It's just so effective because it hurts their economy. It stops them from, you know, when you stop that expansion, not only do you stop them from getting more economy, you stop them from additional larvae. That reduces the amount of units they can produce. It can be really devastating. Again, this is going to be the opening that you saw, and this is going to be most effective against someone who does go for a quick expansion. Containing them is going to be effective regardless, but not nearly as effective as killing off an expansion because of a contain. So I'm just going to go over that opening build order real quick. You started off with a 10 supply depot and then a 12 barracks followed by another 12 barracks, and that was that early Marine push, bringing up 3 SCVs to get that depot and that bunker at the front of his base. 15 supplies when that Orbital Command came down. 28 supply. After denying the expansion and continuing harassment, it's a good idea to get an expansion yourself, so that's why we saw that Orbital Command at 28. Then 28, we also saw that double Refinery preparing for the transition. We, of course, need Vespian gas to get those upgrades for our bio army. And then at 30 supply, getting those 2 additional barracks. Working on more barracks as well, and a factory and starport. Once you expand, you can obviously afford these things. And the idea is that, of course, once you get those Medevacs up, you can go ahead and start drop harassing. You know, you have your initial bunker contain and then your bio push and then drop harassing, trying to deny expansions. Something I do want to say about this particular map, in this particular game rather, it's very unlikely that it would have happened, but you can see all the dark areas over here. You do want to check for possible expansions, because it is possible, it's not very likely, but it is possible that your opponent had expanded over here, and if they had, then you could be just completely unaware and they could be gathering resources. So at the very least, try to get eyes on all the dark areas at some point. I mean, here's a perfect example. OGS did have an expansion over here, and Straylock was unbeknownst to it. So you do want to check. You do want to have some idea. Maybe something as simple as sending a Marine to these expansions, or just flying by a Medevac, grabbing one of your Medevacs, or a Viking even. If you flew a Viking around, you might catch some overlords off guard as well. But always check those expansions, because you never know if your opponent's going to go for an outline expansion when you're being this harassive and dropping this much. So once again, guys, this has been Force from Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos, then please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. As always, guys, keep watching and keep owning. For those fast Banshees, you kind of lack as much early defense. Again, we're kind of going for an early game push, going for these Marines and Hellions straight up. That was the initial point of our push. Also going to be getting, like I said, this dropship out, the Medevac, and that's going to help significantly as well. But you can see, look at the numbers here. He is short in the numbers. He lacks the forces. This is also largely due to this expansion being dropped as well. Realize that dumping resources into this obviously hurts his economy in comparison to ours. But the biggest thing to note is that without the reactor, this early game push is going to be much more effective against what your opponent's going to have. If you have, I mean, pretty simple.